Welcome back. In the previous two videos, we looked at two tools which will help you solve CTET dictation questions. The first tool was WSTDO. These are the 5 types of questions which CTET asks on dictation. So whenever you see a dictation question, you need to ask yourself W or why did the teacher choose this activity? S, skill, what language skill is the teacher trying to develop? T, which type of dictation is this? D, what does the teacher do? And O, that is, what is the learning outcome? Once you've identified the type of question that has been asked, you move on to the second tool, which is the CTET Dictation Framework. Now, I must tell you that this framework works for most of CTET questions, need not only be dictation questions, but I'm going to use it specifically in this video for the CTET dictation questions. So, those 5 frameworks are: 1. Read the classroom situation carefully. What is happening in the classroom? Purpose, that is, identify the purpose of the activity that is taking place. 3rd, think like the teacher. 4th, eliminate weak options. And 5th, look at what is the intended learning outcome. If you haven't watched video 3 and 4 of the dictation playlist, I strongly recommend that you go back and watch those 2 videos first, because then you will understand those tools, these frameworks in detail. I am Dr. Swasti Dhar, and through my YouTube and my courses, I help primary teachers clear the CTET Paper 1 confidently. This is video 5 of the dictation playlist, and in this video and the next, that is video 5 and 6, I'm going to take you through 20 plus questions, actual CTET questions on dictation which CTET has asked, and I'll be using these frameworks so that whenever you look at a question, you use these frameworks and you will always arrive at the correct answer. So let's begin. So let's apply both these tools to actual CTET questions. So question 1 is dictation primarily tests the skill of. Now before I look at the option, let's apply the 2 tools. Let me first think about the WSTDO. Is it a W? Is it an S? Is it a T? Is it a D? Or is it an O? Clearly, we are being asked about the skill. Which skill? So this is a S question. That's the keyword. Now let's apply our framework. There is no classroom situation given, so we can skip the first step. Let's directly move to the 5th one. What is the intended learning outcome? So we want to identify the skill and the learning outcome. Let's now look at the options. So the question is, dictation primarily tests the skills of listening only, listening and speaking, listening and writing, writing only. Now we'll immediately eliminate any option which is not focusing on listening. Okay, so writing only is a wrong option, and listening only is also very narrow. So now we need to focus on whether it's listening and speaking or listening and writing. So that leaves us with the best option, the best pedagogical option, which is listening and writing. Notice something very important out here. We didn't memorize anything. We just used the framework. Is it an S question, a W question, a T question? And then we use the second framework as to what is the intended outcome. And the weaker options get eliminated and we get the broader answer. Let's move on to question number 2. Dictation as a tool mainly helps learners to improve. Dictation as a tool mainly helps learners to improve. First, let us put the WSTDO. What type of a question is it? The key word out here is improve. So this is the O question. What is the intended outcome? Let's look at the options. Only writing, listening, speaking, and sentence structure, grammar rules, reading silently. So let's move on to the 4th framework we have. Let's eliminate the weaker options. So listening only, writing skills, too narrow. Grammar rules, again, too narrow. Reading silently, only one thing. In dictation, we are hardly reading, and that therefore not silently. So that's a totally wrong option. That just leaves us with one option, which is listening, speaking, and sentence structure. In CTET, when you're thinking like a teacher, that is part of the framework, you always have to choose the broadest pedagogical approach, thinking like the teacher. So don't be too narrow, think like a teacher and be broad. The rest of the questions I will be doing a little faster. I did question 1 and 2 slowly so that I could show you my thinking. But basically, it is a matter of asking WSTDO what type of a question is it, and then looking at the situation if it is there, understanding the purpose, thinking like a teacher, eliminating weaker options, and focusing on the intended learning outcome. So the rest of the questions that I'll do out here, it'll go a little faster. Whenever you see the question, just pause, then try and figure out what the answer is. Let's move on. In which type of dictation do learners listen to a text which is read out continuously and write it simultaneously? Partial dictation, mutual dictation, running dictation, traditional dictation. Pause the video out here, answer this question, and then I will explain just what is it that I have used. So this is a T question. What type of dictation is clearly being asked? And the classroom situation has been given because the listeners are listening to the text and they are writing it simultaneously. Listening, writing. So this is a traditional dictation. A text is divided into 2 parts. One learner reads out half the text and her partner takes dictation. Then their roles are reversed and the other half does the same. Okay. So what is this called? The options are jigsaw dictation, running dictation, pair dictation, or composition dictation. Again, pause the video before you move on. So this is also a T question. What type of dictation is this? And a classroom situation is given where there are 2 people, they're working in pairs and the roles get reversed. So this is a pair dictation. Question 5. A teacher arranges her students into pairs and gives them a text of 2 paragraphs. One learner in the pair reads the first paragraph and the other one takes dictation of the same, then this process is reversed. What is this type of dictation called? Again, the same options: jigsaw, running, partial dictation, or composition dictation. Pause the video out here before we move on. So again, this is a T, a type is being asked, and we use the framework, what is a classroom situation. The answer is partial dictation. Now you may ask, what was the difference between question 4 and question 5? Both of these are actual CTET questions, and in one they called it pair dictation and the other it is a partial dictation. Okay, so pair dictation is a very broad term. There are lots of dictation which can be done in pairs, even running dictation. So you have to actually look at the question, look at the context, and then figure out amongst the choices what is working. In partial dictation, this situation which was described, those 2 texts and 2 paragraphs and then the role reversal, this is how a partial dictation takes place. Since partial dictation was not an option in question 4 and it was there in question 5, so you will have to read between the lines as to which is the best option that you get. Let's move on to question number 6. In partial dictation, a teacher dictates the full text, gives hints through pictures, leaves blanks for students to fill, allows peer correction only. So we already know what type of a dictation it is. This is a partial dictation. So we are looking at the what does the teacher do, the D part of it. So what does the teacher do is being asked and the options have been given to you. So we are going to be looking at the classroom situations. So in partial dictation, we have the teacher also giving like a closed test where something is left blank. So that's the answer. That in partial dictation, the teacher leaves something blank for the students to fill in. So we had 2 questions on partial dictation, in one which there's a role reversal and in one which there is a lot of blanks being left by the teacher for the students to fill in. So to understand what partial dictation is, please go back to video 2 of this playlist where I've talked about the 8 types of dictation which every teacher should know, and you'll understand that pair dictation is a broad term and within it we have partial dictation which has this role reversal or fill in the blanks. So both work in this. Let's move on to question number 7. Which type of dictation reduces learners' anxiety by sharing responsibility? So type, you already know, it's a T question. Traditional dictation, composition dictation, mutual dictation, or partial dictation. So let's eliminate the weak options. It's not traditional dictation, it's not composition dictation. Now you'll have to work between mutual dictation and partial dictation. So in which is the anxiety of sharing responsibility reduced most? So since we are talking about shared responsibility, this is mutual dictation. Because in mutual dictation, the two students have to then help each other to complete the entire paragraph that has been given to them. Question number 8 is partial dictation is most useful for improving. So what does partial dictation help to improve? Pronunciation, vocabulary and grammar, reading fluency, or creative writing. So again, this is an O question outcome, and even in the framework we are going to be looking at the outcome. So the weaker option, pronunciation, definitely not there. Reading fluency, we are not reading. Creative writing, we are not into creative writing. So what it actually improves is your vocabulary and grammar. Question 9 is a long question, so I've divided it into 3 parts. A teacher does the following activity in her classroom. So we are being told what is the teacher doing. A classroom situation is being given to us. A piece of small text is divided into 2 different chunks, or every alternate sentence is given to a pair, and each learner And that is the approach that you must use when you are solving pedagogy questions in CTET. Notice that we've been using the 8 types of dictation which we have done in video 2 of this playlist. So if you are not sure about what each type of video is, I highly recommend that you go and watch that video so that you are clear about the types of dictation, and then only move on to the questions which come. Because once you understand what each type of dictation is trying to do, what it's trying to achieve, what are the activities which are happening in the classroom, then understanding these questions become much easier. In the next video, we will be continuing with a few more questions which have come from CTET on this topic. So we'll be focusing on running dictation, composition dictation, picture dictations, and the other 3 or 4 types of dictation which are left. If you found this video useful, do share it with a teacher who's preparing for the CTET, and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video.